Hello, I'm Gareth.
And I'm Shane, and welcome to Building Business Resilience.
This is a podcast from Sanctuary Financial Planning, which helps growth business owners and social media influencers achieve financial independence.
We're two passionate financial planners on a mission to seek out new ideas, tips and tricks to help you take control of your finances and run better businesses.
We delve into the true goals and aspirations of our guests in order to provide you with some real value and positivity.
Nothing outrageous, clear, simple, solid financial solutions. We also have a YouTube series to accompany this, and details will be at the end of the show. So let's move on to our guest.
Welcome back to the Building Business Resilience Show. It's episode 11, and in today's show, we're going to be talking to Phil Davies. Phil is a big personality in the sport of rugby, which has been a way of life for him for over 40 years now. When you speak to Phil, you can see and hear the passion in his voice for the game he loves. Having spent all his playing career with his beloved Llanelli, he won the Welsh Cup 5 times, skippering the club for a number of seasons. He earned 46 caps for Wales in the back 5 of the scrum, sharing in the Five Nations title triumph in 1994. As a coach, one of the most notable achievements was with Leeds between 1996 and 2006. We took them from Division 4 through to the English Premiership. He also had spells with Scarlets, Cardiff Blues, Worcester, RGC, Wales Under-20s, and Namibia, where he saw 2 World Cups. Although still involved in coaching, he also runs a consultancy company specialising in leadership and coaching. He says, our core purpose is to develop ethical and transformational leadership in individual players to ensure teams are prepared and inspired to serve and lead beyond the playing field. They focus primarily on growth and authenticity, character, responsibility, innovation and vision, and finally, empowerment and engagement. So, without much further ado, let's get started. Phil, welcome. Thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
Pleasure, thanks. Yeah, good, Gareth. Very good. Shane?
Afternoon, Phil. How are we doing?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, all good, thanks. In West Wales in lockdown, but not too bad, actually. Just I've explored some of the hillsides of West Wales and realised we're living in quite a beautiful area. Well, I knew that before, but I just found out a bit more about the natural beauty that surrounded me. So lots of walking, so all good.
I think that's one of the things. I've spoken to so many people who are like, actually, I didn't realise what was on my doorstep. I've been living so-and-so for years. Even my parents have lived in the same house, as long as I've been born, so that's 40 years, 40-odd years. They said some of the places they've kind of explored now as well, or haven't been to for years locally.
Yeah.
Hillsides from an ex-rugby player and ex-coach. Surely you've nailed all of those hills over the years, either yourself or basically putting people through pain.
Yeah, well, there was a famous. There were 2 famous hills in my career. One was called Denham Avenue, which is a street in Llanelli, which was behind the old Straddy Park where Peter Herbert used to have us running up. And when we were coaching the Scarlets a few years ago, Wayne Proctor, myself, and Rob Jones, Paul Moriarty, we used to get the boys running up there. In fact, he got a few guys pushing wheelbarrows up there full of bricks. So you can imagine how popular that hill is with certain generations of Llanelli rugby players. And the other one was Leeds, of course, Roundhay Park, which in Leeds quite famous in the Roundhay area, obviously, for concerts. And there was another hill there that must have been about 100+ metres. So the players used to run up, but I used to get a taxi up. So that's how long that hill was. But I have found a few new ones now, which have got my heart rate up as well around where I live in Llanelli. So yeah, it's all good.
You've had the weather for it over the last few weeks, anyways. It's been superb.
I think that's been one of the blessings, hasn't it? The weather we've had has been phenomenal, and I do wonder how some of these things they put in place would have happened if it had been chucking it down with rain.
Oh, I know. It'd been, you've got to. We've been, we're tremendously lucky where we live because we've got so much space to go, and walk and explore type of thing. But can imagine some of the people who've sort of been, been in flats or whatever, or in real, real urban areas. Must be really tough for people. And I think, as you say, Gar, the weather's been a little bit of, it's been a bit of, bit of solace from to get out and about and a bit of fresh air, even if it was only for an hour in the early part of the lockdown,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it does. So what have you been doing in lockdown, Phil? Apart from walking up hills?
Walking. drinking cider.
Lots of Zoom calls, I expect.
Oh yeah, look, it's been. Do you know what? Right, it's been really interesting because we started off having a family quiz, which has been brilliant. You know, with our children and Jonathan's kids and whatever. It's been great. And my mother-in-law, so that's been good fun. So we connected a bit with some of my nieces and nephews on a regular basis, more so than normal anyway. Doing lots of Zoom stuff, which has been really good fun, particularly on some of on some leadership topics. And to be honest, having time to reflect, and I don't know if you guys have done it, but you know, I spent 5 years going back and forth in Namibia. Over this past period of time, and you just don't get time. You spend 26 weeks of the year away, you then come back home, and you're trying to, sort of reconnect when you come back here. So I haven't had time to reflect really, and just reflecting on what's gone on the last 5 years. 2 Rugby World Cups, which have been amazing, and coaching in a different continent as well. Different cultures, different challenges, whether it's resource or managing people, coaching people. So yeah, it's just reflecting on all of that and trying to portray some of those lessons to out and about really over the Zoom, and it's been good fun and quite cathartic in some ways as well.
That's probably all of my questions answered in one statement, Phil. We might as well finish now. I've got a couple of questions for you. That's answered. So thanks very much.
That's in the shortened format. But no, I but like Shane's going to come on to the questions. But you've I guess you probably admit this, or maybe not. You've had a fantastic career, I guess. Not only playing, but coaching, and the opportunities I guess you've had have been like phenomenal, haven't they?
Oh yeah, it's just I mean, I talked to some of the listeners might know Kevin Bowyer, and he was an ex-Welsh coach, Kevin. I actually played sevens with him, would you believe, when he was younger and I was lighter. That was a long time ago in 1985. But a wonderful guy. He's been a real coaching sort of mentor for me, particularly when I was in England with Leeds. He was part of the RFU Elite Development coach program, and he headed it up actually. So we've been talking about the 10 life lessons we've learned from rugby, and it's not been easy along the way, that's for sure. But I've been very lucky, extremely lucky, both on and off the pitch. With my boots on my headband as a captain, and my boots on my whistle as a coach, if you like. But yeah, it's been really interesting, and some of the the things you learn, like along the way, and the people you meet and all that stuff is been awesome, really, and could have been better, but also could have been a lot less as well, So which is good.
You started, Phil. I done some figures the other day. 13 years with Llanelli, 350 appearances, which is a huge amount of games. Was that in the amateur days?
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, it was. I started in 1992. My first game with Llanelli was 18. 18 in a few days, and a great Ray Gravel was captain of the team that night. We played Penarth at Straddy, and it was amazing. I'd watched Llanelli. It was a bizarre, because I lived in Nice. I went to watch Llanelli because there was a Llanelli supporter living about 4 doors down from me, really, and I was encapsulated by Derek Quinnell, the win against New Zealand in 1972, blah blah, all that, Delmy Thomas, all that sort of stuff. So I grew up with them, So to be able to go there and play was incredible. And I went there in 82 with a coach called John McLean. And he had this Sabutio, I never forget, he put the Sabutio rugby game out on a table, explaining his tactics. So I thought, flipping heck, this was pretty cool. Anyway, he only lasted for, he'd been there a couple of years, but he retired then. And my first full year in Llanelli was 82-83. This was 82, the end of the 81-82 season. And it was the first year Gareth Jenkins started coaching there, and Alan Lewis. So Gareth was, and Alan really. It was a couple more, but Gareth and Alan were the main coaches I ever had. I went into the police for 2 years. But yeah, most of my career was played in Llanelli and played under Gareth, actually, as an amateur, with some great guys. We had some great players, great coaches, great times, really.
Was it different back then than when were you training? Training in the evening and weekends and working during the day? And
when I played, I worked for three really great people. There was a guy who was a friend of mine today, Gerard. He's involved in financial services. He had a company called Sterling Asset Management. He was from Aberystwyth. I worked with him for a while. He was brilliant. Worked for CEMD, which is like a Ford dealership, for 4 or 5 years. And then I worked for MRJ, who was one of the most incredible blokes I've ever met. I don't think he ever slept. And he was involved in metal reclamation, demolition, right? And waste management. But he was awesome. I worked at his stepson as part of the waste management business, and there were three people that had a massive impact on my career because they just supported me. We'd train in the club Tuesday, Thursday. Then I'd be in the gym or down the running track on a Monday and Wednesday. So we were sort of training, either collectively or individually most days, and then we'd have Friday off playing a Saturday type of thing, So, I was very lucky, great people around me and supporting me. And, the teams we played at in Llanelli they were quite successful years between sort of 85 and 93, We won quite a lot of trophies and went to 9 cup finals, the old Schweppes Cup finals, wow, which were pretty cool actually, and won 7 of them. So just amazing players, Ian Evans was there, Jonathan Davis, Nigel Davis, Phil May, Lawrence Delaney, Boy, real Scarlet legends really. And Rupert Moon was there with us, Tony Copsey. I'll never forget Tony Copsey, top guy, my second row partner for years. So we were both playing for Wales together one day, and then he's in the shower there with Made in England tattooed on his arse. I thought, what's going on here? But, just brilliant times and great people as well. And, Gareth used to drum into us how important it was playing for the town of Llanelli. Everything that Llanelli stood for, and, the steel works, and, the town have gone through some difficult times over the years, but he was incredibly proud of his heritage within the town and having played with Llanelli schoolboys, all of that stuff. So, it was a brilliant time, magical really. And we had the first open-top bus trip from Hendy, I think it was, or Portadelice, all the way through Llanelli when we won the treble in 1992-93. We beat Australia, who were the world champions then, won the cup and won the league, the first or second year of the Heineken League, So, just great times. A lot of beer drunk.
I remember I was a Newbridge supporter in the kind of when you were playing back then, and you guys used to come up because Newbridge, Newport all in the same league then. It was a bigger league then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was called a merit table, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was. So I remember watching you actually when I was a little one. I was going to say, when was Gareth Davies coaching at Llanelli then?
Gareth Jenkins.
Gareth Jenkins, sorry, yeah.
Oh, mate, flipping heck. He started in 82, 83, and he finished in 2006 because I took over from him.
That's when he went to Wales then, didn't he? Was that when he went?
Yeah, he went to Wales, but he'd also coached Wales in 91 to 94 with Alan Davis and Bob Norston as manager.
Yeah.
And they were brilliant together. Alan Davis, ABC Davis, was one of the best coaches I played for in terms of he's very cerebral, very attention to detail, was amazing. I used to go home with about 6 flip charts in the boot before we used to play. There was so much information. But we had Mark Ring playing right with us at that stage. Right, Ringo he was a genius of a player, Mark. All my life, he was just incredible, really. The way that he saw the game and how quickly he saw the game, and he had a bad knee injury, came back, but he was just, his brain was Formula One speed when it came to rugby. Incredible. But they were good coaches. Gareth was just an amazing motivator. He could still get me to play today, I think, when he starts talking and speaking, like he got such passion and knowledge of the game. It's just incredibly. I think I think him and Mike Ruddock should have swapped. I think Gareth should have had the job when Mike had it, and Mike should have arguably had it when Gareth had it,
Okay.
Just, it's only my opinion, that is. But they were two brilliant coaches, in my opinion, and maybe didn't get the recognition they perhaps deserve. Well, Mike did win in the Grand Slam for sure.
Yeah.
But, Gareth certainly didn't, because he was a brilliant coach. If you look at his record, it's just incredible. I can't see how many other coaches in Wales have won more honours. If you look at, being successful as winning, which a lot of people do, is more a coaching than that, I believe. But, he won, incredible amounts of trophies at Llanelli, League and Cup, and beat, we beat the Maoris, Fiji, the world champions at the time, Australia, with their full test team, He was just an amazing guy. He knew to peak for big games. And he had Alan Lewis, who was a great attacking coach, amazing attention to detail. Alan Lewis, our Llanelli coach, amazing attention to detail on that side. So they were like the Brian Clough and Peter Taylor of rugby in their day, They're brilliant.
Talking about internationals in Wales and that, talk us through the Battle of Cardiff '87. It was painful?
Yeah, it was actually, shit. I don't like talk. I had a flipping haymaker from behind off Wade Dooley. And in fact, I was only on, I made a note here actually. I think I was only on for about 2 minutes, 3 seconds. The quickest, one side of my kit was stinking because I fell on the floor. The other side was pristine. But I remember saying to David Pickering, who was Welsh captain a few years later, "Why didn't you tell me to duck?" Because he could see Wade coming towards me. I couldn't, because I was going backwards, trying to stop John Hall coming through the line out. But there we are. Look, it's one of those things. And I ended up in Cardiff Royal Infirmary with a wonderful guy called Ron Ayres, who was our masseur at the time, Ron. And he accompanied me. And I think I remember, going in there, and I had to wait for an x-ray and all the rest of it. And I think it was only about a quarter of an hour gone when I was sat there waiting for x-ray. Wonderful NHS staff, brilliant. Took me down, had my x-ray, whatever. I had 3 fractures in the orbital of my eye.
Wow.
And then just went back and sat in the mess room drinking cans of Heineken with the staff. Watching the game in my full Welsh kit. And then going back to the Arms Park, the old National Stadium, for a shower, half cut before the boys had just come off having beaten England by a small margin. It was a terrible game. Terrible build-up. It was a strange week, that really. Hysterical press coverage. It was interesting. Anyway, yeah, so that was a painful experience. Not one of my most memorable, but I learned a lot from it. And Wade and I had a few more altercations after that. But he's a good man. But there weren't so many cameras in the games those days as there are now.
It's still a cap. It doesn't matter if it's 2 minutes and 3 seconds. It's still representing your country for all of those 123 seconds or whatever it may be. So. Somebody
said to me the other day, I think, I was talking to somebody, had 46 caps, which is amazing. And in today's money, he said it's somewhere around 90.
Wow. So
it was, to be able to, I didn't realise that. I don't know how this guy had come to that conclusion, mind you. But so my point is, it's just amazing. It's amazing to play once, but to have all those experience over 10 years was incredible, really.
And then you done the first World Cup then, didn't you? There was the Tonga game. That was, I wrote down, was that as painful as the Battle of Cardiff? Because you hear some stories how they there was a few altercations during that game, wasn't there? And
yeah, they really perfected the art of the short arm tackle. In those days, that game, funny enough, it was on TV the other day, because I think. Was it Glenn? I think it was either Glenn or Ian. Glenn. I think it was. Glenn Webb scored a hat-trick in that game, I think.
Yeah, it was. That was on TV. They've been showing a few of the kind of older games, haven't they?
That's right. And I think Ian scored 4 against Canada. But the biggest, the toughest game, right, the dirtiest, most physical game was the year before we played Tonga, in Tonga.
Okay.
And... do you remember that film? You know the film, is it Leslie Nielsen, the Naked Gun films, and you see the ambulance with a little blue light at the start, right? That's what that game was like. When I look back at that game, it's just this blue light coming on the field, ambulance coming on the field, on a regular occurrence to take players to hospital, which were mainly Welsh players, by the way. And then the boys had to walk home from hospital. They give them a paracetamol and said, "You're all right, go home." The boys tried to get taxis and ambulances, but they couldn't because everybody was at the game. So can you imagine, picture it, you've got about 5 or 6 Welsh players walking down this road in Tonga, belting down with rain, having to walk back because there's no transport to take them back to the hotel. That was international rugby in 1986, man. Whoa. An amazing tour of the South Seas. Fiji, Tonga and Samoa. But that trip, I think, cemented what Wales did a few years later at the World Cup in 87, finishing third, and obviously the Triple Crown in 88. I think that tour with a young group of guys and, Tony Gray and Derek Quinnell coaching, I think it really solidified the group in extreme adversity.
Talking about the Fiji, Tonga and Samoa, did you see the sketch recently that Eddie Jones did that's out on social media? Now, I don't know if it's about now, where the New Zealand guys were interviewing him and they said, "How do you think New Zealand are going to do?" and stuff. And he went, "I'm really looking forward to the new team." Because in fairness, you have the 3 best youth academies in the world in Fiji, Tonga and Samoa. He just blew them out of the water. It was superb. It was absolutely amazing.
Well, that's Eddie for you, that's for sure. His sense of humour, but he would have, to be fair to him, he would have meant that in a very respectful way. But people will sort of, articulate, they'll have their own bias towards that. But there's put it this way, there's an element of truth in it in relation to, a lot of those players have played for New Zealand. But the main point is they're an extremely talented bunch of players. All those islanders. I've coached a few myself over my time, and they are points of difference players, as you'd say.
Yeah.
We had a guy in Leeds once called George Harder. He had biceps the size of your quads. He's a massive bloke, and came and made a real difference for us in Leeds at that stage. But he was a Samoan player, but people couldn't tackle him. He was amazing. So
is it like a natural power thing with them then, with the kind of Islanders?
It seems, I would say that. It seems to be. There's obviously a lot of sand dunes around that part of the world. They're running up and down in, and if you watch Ben Ryan's program about Fiji preparing for the Olympics and the type of extremes they went through, they've just got a very. They've got a natural habitat that develop those, those type of physical skills, if you like, and ball skills, So, plus it's genetic as well, I'm sure.
Talking about management and stuff like that. Did you jump straight then from playing straight into management, or was there a period of time that you had an overlap and a lot of the things we do here with the podcast, talking to people about adaptation and mental strength and stuff like that? How did you kind of adapt to going from the player side into the coaching management? Was there a need for change, and what sort of change was needed?
Oh yeah, it was. Well, the biggest change of all was telling my wife and my 2 daughters that we were living in Llanelli at the time, and then 5 weeks later we were living in Yorkshire. So that was my girls, our daughters were 8 and 6 at the time. They were in a Welsh speaking school, so they were being taught through the medium of Welsh. Along with that, and my wife was Welsh speaker. She, obviously lived all her life in Llanelli, so that was the biggest challenge. And they did an amazing job, really adapting. The 3 of them, because it was all right for me in many ways, because I was at the club and I was meeting new people. I was doing this, that, the other. The kids would go into a school. It was all girls school where they'd been in a mixed school before, and it was taught. Obviously the medium, the language there was English, so I was a huge. Change for them. But yeah, I went, I think my last game for Llanelli was the 16th of May, and then I started in Leeds on the 1st of June 96. So there was no transition period going on there. So off we went, and it was in the beginning. It took some huge experience, because I'd gone from, in rugby previously, I'd gone from, somebody else organising the training or the way we played or whatever the case was, the scheduling, all that type of stuff, where you could rely on Gareth or Alan or the coaches, for example, to actually being the one who had to do that then. You said I was the one that had to do it. And then obviously we had a lot of players. We only had 2 professionals at the time. Colin Stevens, my old teammate for Llanelli, was there as well.
That's it off.
And Mike Shelley was another one who ended up playing for England Saxons and stayed at Leeds for all his career really. That we were there, and it was a massive change. Just in that regard, obviously we had to adapt to a different country as a family. The support networks weren't there, so that was a challenge. My wife and kids were amazing during that period, and also then going from, somebody who was fitting into a plan to somebody who was actually creating a plan. It was interesting because we had 3 professional players, and then the rest of the boys were all amateurs, accountants, solicitors, factory workers, car makers, farmers. So it was a big change, but amazing experience, which I've been ever grateful for,
Well, because you were really successful there, as you climbed up the ladder, did the number of professionals increase then on a regular basis? Then you were dealing with more and more as you climbed up the English ladder.
Yeah, we did. I remember my first international player was Christian Savramuto, played for Ireland. Scrum half, Sri Lankan heritage, born in Sri Lanka. He was our first international we signed. We signed Stephen Bashop as an All Black, playing at London Irish. He came as assistant coach to me. Simon Easterby was found. We gave him his first professional contract when he came through. Oh. So slowly we went from 3, I think, I can't remember the exact figures, but I think we went from 3 players to 14. To in the end, we went to a full-time academy. Stuart Lancaster was the manager of that at the time, having played when I first went to Leeds. So Stuart was doing that, did a brilliant job there. And we ended up with, I think, 78 players in our books then, ranging between the ages of sort of 14, 15 up to 30s, So our senior squad, then our academy squads, So, we try to add a coach team in because, my coaching philosophy has always been, giving young players opportunities. That's been a massive part of my philosophy as a coach. And, I've done it everywhere I've been, really. Giving young guys a chance and then trying to nurture them and develop them through to have sustainable careers thereafter, But that's very, very important, giving young people opportunities. And that's what we did at Leeds. And we slowly, incrementally grew it.
Superb. We probably shouldn't even be talking to you about adaptation then and mental strength and stuff like that. It should be the family. If they've just had to up sticks, back then and say goodbye to everyone within a matter of days and go, right, as you say, it's a new country still in the UK, but it's a totally different world up there against in West Wales.
It was, and it was made tougher really because Caroline's brother, my brother-in-law's wife at the time was diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away in those first couple of years that we were up there. So that was really tough, because we've been married 34 years this year, my wife and I, and we've been together a long time. But that was we'd been. I think we got married in 1986, so we'd been married 10 years at that time, so we were quite a close family, My mother-in-law and father-in-law were living, or my wife's stepfather-in-law were living in Trimsara, and we were living in Llanelli, and so we were very close at that time. Jonathan was in Cardiff then, and he'd just come back from rugby league, so that was a tough time, and the resilience that that he found and had to be there for the kids and all that. It was a tough time from a family perspective, that's for sure. And just amazing how everybody got through it all and pulled together during that period and supported each other, really,
But to spend that long up there, you must have loved your time up there.
Oh, it was great. It's a great city, Leeds. You know, I didn't have a clue really. I'd only been to Leeds once, I think. Prior to that, I knew about Leeds Rugby League because, you know, they'd signed a few Welsh guys over the period of time. Ken Jones being maybe the most famous Llanelli man that went north in the early days, back in the 50s, 60s, I think it was. You know, so I knew about Leeds. I knew about Headingley, the cricket ground. I remember going there first to Headingley to watch a test match, actually. It was South Africa v England in the summer of 96 when we went up there. And Headingley, the pitch was like a bowling green. And I could not believe people were actually parking their cars on it to go watch cricket. It's unbelievable. So we went there. It was my first cricket match. I remember Pollock and Donald bowling. My first experience of watching these guys, you know, top-class test match cricket, you know.
Quick bowlers as well.
Yeah, they were brilliant bowlers. So, yeah, it was just amazing seeing the city developing, seeing the stadium. And yeah, it was a really special time, really, as you know, in my career and in our family life as well, you know.
How did the Leeds job come about?
Well, Colin Stevens had gone up there in October 95. He dislocated his ankle badly, Colin, playing with Llanelli. He got back fit. Anyway, they looked for him to go up there as a player coach. And then they were looking for a director of rugby. So they said, look, you know, Colin said, look, give Phil a ring, which they did. And I had an opportunity at that time to go and play rugby in London for the Harlequins. Robert Jones and I got offered a contract to go and play, or a professional contract, or stay in Llanelli, obviously. But anyway, I went up there, just felt right, and then just carried on with it. And yeah, it was brilliant. Really, a great experience all round. And it was just one of those things where you drove there and it just, you know, my gut feeling was this is going to be a good thing. I just had to persuade a few other people that it would be as well at the time.
I was going to say, Phil, was it at the time the third sport in the area? And then you mentioned the cricket. So behind kind of league, cricket, football, was Union kind of it wasn't the sport that the vast majority would use. So what was the motivation behind trying to take a job where you're the fourth, maybe most popular sport in the city or the area, and trying to build it up, which you successfully did?
Yeah, I think firstly, you know, we had a stadium. When you look around Headingley, even in those days, it was iconic. It's still, you know, now, the way it's redeveloped now, it's just an incredible place to go. It's like going to do a 5-star hotel when you go to certain parts of the ground. It's amazing. So we had a stadium. I thought if we could achieve the ambition of getting to the Premiership, we had a stadium to do so. Which is one thing. Secondly, that, you know, Yorkshire is England's biggest rugby playing county. You know, so there's over 200 odd rugby clubs around Yorkshire. So, you know, it's a hotbed of talent for rugby union and rugby league. And the third challenge was trying to get on Look North as the TV or in the papers as the third most popular sport in Leeds, like football, rugby league, obviously cricket's there, but to be up there with those three, you know, sports really, and we achieved that. You know, we were, when we won the cup at Twickenham, whatever, we were the first sport in the news that night, which was great. So yeah, it's look, rugby union, rugby league and football is always going to be a massive part of life in Leeds, as is cricket. But around Yorkshire itself and in Leeds, rugby union is there are 12 local rugby clubs in Leeds, you know, that are playing in Yorkshire rugby or National League rugby. So, and then you've got places like Harrogate and Otley, Wharfdale surrounding, you know, in the Yorkshire area. So I was terrific clubs there. So I still believe now, although they got relegated, I still believe now that there's an opportunity to regrow it and, you know, reset it, recalibrate it, go again, you know.
We have an underlying theme that comes through these podcasts with the vast majority of people, where it's adaptation, which we talked about there, and mental strength or mental awareness and stuff like that. And we've asked a few people, if we use the concept, if we have a bad day in the office, nobody gets to see it because we're behind a computer or whatever it may be, and you just get on with it. If you guys have a bad day in the office, sometimes it can be in front of thousands and thousands of people. How do you deal with that? How do you park that day and kind of keep a happy face and get on with it in the job you've been doing for, you know, years and years?
I think what I've learned, Chin, over the years is like emotional stability, because I'm quite a passionate guy. When I think of my coaching, I've said my philosophy, it does include helping or giving young people opportunities, but I class it as process and passion, and there have been times where emotional stability, when I've reflected, that is such an important skill to have, because there are times when I've done it badly, and shout and bawl at people when I shouldn't have done, and there are times I've done it, really well, really, really well. So, it's about getting that balance right. And as I say, I've not always got it right. I remember, we lost a game in Harlequins once, and I went through, kicked the referee's door, broke my toe, got fined 500 quid. And it cost me 20 quid in beer to buy the ref a beer after I apologised to him. So, you learn really that, it's all about, controlling what you can control and being adaptable and comfortable to change. And also being sensitive to other people's situations as well. And that's where your own development of self-awareness is so important. Because, sometimes if you're not that self-aware, somebody could be having a bad day and you decide to jump on and maybe take it personally or something at some stage. And then all of a sudden, it's got bugger all to do with you at the end of the day. And sometimes you don't get that balance right, and it's so important. And that's what I've found. If I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself, I'll just go for a walk and talk to the trees, because one, they can hear you, and two, they don't answer you back. So that's a good way of, I've just found, walking, if you like, in nature in particular, is pretty good to manage things and to think things through and think of how think of other people's point of view and all that sort of stuff. And that's what I mean by emotional stability is having a process and a period of time where you can really reflect to make a decision. And that could be minutes, it could be hours, it could be days, but I've really found that over the years, that's one of the real serious lessons I've learned from my life in sport, really.
Probably the thing is it that, you're all sports are on about having younger and younger managers, more so in the football and the Premier League and stuff like that. But do you think if the longer you do the job, fine, you may be set in your own ways, but the more that you'll probably have come up against a situation in the past, and the experience, a bit like, an older player than a younger player, the experience counts for a lot, because you may have seen that happen before and you know how to deal with that situation because it may have arisen in the past as well.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt, because it always blows over, if that makes sense. And in sport, it isn't life or death. I know Bill Shankly used to say it was a bit more than that back in the day. More important than that back in the day, and you can understand why as well. But it's a case of, like I said earlier, having that balance, having a process and a process of reflection and a period of time where you can actually think, do you know what, I've been through this before, and this is what happened, and it helps you to be calmer, knowing that it will pass in due course, and you've got to be adaptable as well. I think, and you're going to hate this, Shane, but one of the better football managers over time, was reinventing himself was Ferguson. Is well documented how good he has been, and Guardiola, I got to mention that, haven't I? But as a City fan. But if you look at football, those guys, were constant, or in Guardiola's case in Ferguson's case did, move with the times. So you've got to be adaptable and you've got to keep ahead of things, But that's what I think frustrates me sometimes, is coaches with experience do not get the opportunity of using that experience for the benefit of others, because they've been there, done it, and sometimes people pigeonhole you and think, oh well, look, he's had his chance, but if sometimes people looked at it more broadly, the mentorship type of roles that experience and wisdom can bring to the table, I think is quite vast,
Yeah. The legend that is Mr. Shankly. I'm not sure if he'd say it's more important than life or death now. He's never had coronavirus, so
Absolutely.
You said there about adaptation. You went from player to coach in a different country on a club team. Back to other teams. So there's many different teams that you coached. And then you went into international coaching. Have they differed? And again, it's the adaptation. Is it different going from player to coach? And is it on a team basis, as a club basis? And is it different again than going to an international coach where you don't have the players for Monday to Sunday like you would in a club team?
Yeah, most definitely. It's as I said earlier. It was about for me at the beginning, it was about having been the recipient of planning, I was now sort of had to be the architect of planning, which is different. But international coaching is a good question. Again, for me, it comes down to good planning, clear communication, and then prioritization within that plan, because your time scales are shorter. And it's important that people have a clear understanding of where their roles and responsibilities lie within the team. And once you've got that, good planning there, prioritization in terms of how we're trying to play, how we're trying to run the system, and then communicating our plan consistently with players and staff thereafter. When we were in sort of, Namibia for 26 weeks of the year. The other part of the year, we were back in Wales. So we had to then make sure that our communication was consistent, but it was... The reason it was effective because of our planning and our prioritization within that planning in the beginning. And we kept things as simple as possible because you haven't got the time and you've got to really get down to the bare bones of what rugby is all about. And I used to just break things up in threes, like 21 days, 3 weeks to create a habit, good one, bad one, whatever. But we used to put everything in threes, the way we used to play was all around core skills, transition, adapting to broken field situations in sport, and then the set play stuff, the organisation. So those are the three things we used to have, and then we'd have three things, in selection: size, speed, power. Those are the key things on selection. So we made, we looked at keeping it simple and thematically looking at the way we planned everything, But it was very clear, and we were able to, keep that communication consistent when we weren't on the ground, when we were remote managing people. But the simplicity in the communication is crucial.
I suppose you can transition that to any sport or any business or anything, as long as it's simple. Then people won't mix up issues. 2 World Cups with Namibia.
Yeah, pretty cool. That was good. Yeah, enjoyed those. Yeah, I did. That was amazing, really. I went out there to Namibia first in September 2014 to be a sort of a facilitator on behalf of World Rugby. When they were having a big forum, they just qualified for England, and they were having a forum because they were in there was a little bit of to and fro of how they were going to prepare and how they were going to do it, who was going to be involved. Anyway, so I went out, great experience. Went out for a week with an Irish guy called Dr. Liam Hennessy, who's got a college in Limerick, brilliant man, unbelievable guy, so knowledgeable on strength and conditioning, sports science, that side of things. So he did that, I did the rugby. But as the journey went on, the coach resigned about 8 weeks before the World Cup, which is a bit of a shock for everybody because he was an amazing guy. He was a prop that played for Namibia, played for Dax in the French league, but turned his car over on his parents' farm in Namibia and broke his back and was in a wheelchair. Oh. So he would have sort of been a pioneer for some amazing, an inspiration for some amazing thing, sort of messages moving forward. But he resigned, unfortunately, and they asked me to take over. I went. We had Jack Berger as the captain, who was at Saracens at the time. And we did okay, actually. We achieved a lot of milestones. Didn't win a game, but we won our first World Cup point. And created some real credibility for the country. Got all our losing margins down by 50-odd% against the tier 1 nations like Argentina and New Zealand. So it was brilliant. And then I stayed for 4 years and we reshaped the team. Got a young group of people, went from an average age of 31 to 24 in Japan. And then go into the first World Cup in Asia in Japan was just an incredible, experience. Amazing people, country. You talk about efficiency and politeness and welcome and all that. It was just unsurpassed, really. Incredible facilities. I think there were about 52 cameras, somebody told me once, in the stadium in Tokyo when we played the All Blacks. I thought, gee.
Yeah.
That one in 1987 Battle of Cardiff game, that one. You'd have had about 3 players left in the field, I think. They'd all been red carded with the fourth official. But anyway, yeah, so just amazing experiences, really.
The Namibian player, are they mainly amateur professional? What's the kind of split?
Yeah, in the first World Cup, it was 80-20 amateur.
Wow.
But going to Japan, it was more 70-30. But then after the World Cup, it became 55-45, would you believe? Yeah. It was just over 21 of the boys started playing all around the world. And they got contracts, South America, North America, Europe, South Africa. So it was brilliant. It was really good. Really.
Yeah, I was going to say, I assumed a lot of them probably played in other kind of nations, didn't they? A lot of the kind of players. There seems to be a lot of rugby coming up in North America now, doesn't there? Seems to be.
Yeah, both South America as well as, there's the MLR, the Major League Rugby, and is, it's set up in a very similar way to the MLS. It's a good model, actually. It'll be a very sustainable, I think, get the interest in there.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Getting interest.
It's a very interesting model, very sustainable. I think I got about 14 or 13 franchises now, all over the country there. There's just a new one, I think, in LA and a new one in Dallas just recently come up. So, and South America as well. Argentina, Paraguay, Chile, Uruguay. They've got a professional league going on there now. I think they've got about 7 teams at the moment. So they play each other home and away, and they also go and play some of the teams in the MLR. So the game is really growing globally. It's really starting to, grow and getting rugby in the Olympics is amazing. So that's...
you can see the pride, Phil, when we mentioned there about the World Cups. Your face just lit up and stuff like that. So I presume that's one of the highs of life. I'm not sure. We usually do lows and stuff like that, but throw in you've given the highs of Leeds probably and the 350 caps and 2 World Cups. Give us a low one, but then on the back of that, throw in a funny moment that you're allowed to share with us that won't get you sued, basically.
Yeah, dear me. I think I thought about this. It's a good question again, and I don't know. You will say highs and lows, that's for sure, in many ways. But what I've learned, particularly during this period, but what I have learned over a long period of time is that, you've got to learn from all these experiences. The lows when, losing my first coaching job in Llanelli was not great. The way it turned out, the way I found out about it was difficult. And it was like a bereavement, to be honest. I know it because, there was a club I played for. I'd been in the trenches with a lot of those guys, and the club was so close to my heart, really. It took me a while to get over it, looking back. I was pretty mixed up about the game and about, trying to find the next coaching job, not the right coaching job. That was really tough. And, when I left, the 2 Welsh regions really, has been difficult, tough decisions, tough places. Although, we showed enough progression, I thought, They were tough jobs, really, which I learned a hell of a lot out of, both myself and about other people, actually. But, they both, I think I left the both of them not feeling fulfilled, if you like. I think with the Blues, there was such a turnaround job to do there, with all those people leaving, restructuring, a really young group of people, limited resources financially, And I think a lot of Welsh coaches around that time did an amazing job with the resources that they had,
Yeah.
Obviously, things have improved now, and that's great testimony to the regions and the union, in terms of, financial resource. I mean, although now is going to be a tough time.
Yeah.
So those were tough times, because it's your career and it's how you're paying the mortgage basically nowadays, and people people have a right to their opinion, but it has a bit more effect. It's like a business. It's like if you go like now, when people are going to be made redundant, that sort of thing is. It's tough times on people individually, family. So I think during those times as well, I didn't ask for enough help. I think I tried to evolve myself through it, through learning, rather than asking for help where I could potentially change that a little bit quicker in my thinking or in my outlook on things, So those, not asking for a bit of help, I think, is one thing. And then feeling that, I'm leaving here a bit too soon type of thing, but still ever so grateful I've had those opportunities to be in those places, those, some obvious things for me anyway, personally. The Welsh Rugby Union, I love my time there, but decided to leave there, I think, looking back, too early as well. I wanted to get back to coach, really, and I think that type of mentality had stemmed from the previous two experiences I had in the regions that didn't go so well, and I felt I had something to prove without really understanding what I had to prove, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
So just, one thing I think is important as you go along a journey is, to get a coach, or to, somebody who coaches the coach, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
I think it's very important, Those things are important. I was lucky in a way that, my wife and my daughters and my mother-in-law in particular were really, really helpful and supportive. No, they just used to listen to me talk nonsense, really. Well, I still do as well, if you listen to them. But yeah, they were some lows in a sense, but also lucky that I was able to, that I've had those opportunities as well,
Yeah, I think, like, as an outsider looking at kind of the coaching jobs in Wales, at the regions, as they are kind of now, I think you end up having a trial by media, don't you? It's such a, you're just looking from the outside, you just see as kind of, you've not only got the battle on the field and at the club, but you get the battle in the media then as well, don't you? Which is now even bigger now with social media as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, guys, I don't think, like, I'd done some media work. I worked for Sky for a while, punditry, Scrum 5. I didn't handle that particularly well either. When I look back at it, I think I could have been, my outline messages could have maybe been a little bit different when I look back, and, not that I've ever fallen out with anybody, but I could be abrupt at times, which is not great either, you know what I mean? So I learned, I think I could have managed those situations a little bit better and should have, and that's when I come back to, but that's part of my DNA. Is my passion is to want to help people, is to want to do well, and sometimes it's that perfection thing which has been Achilles' heel for me at times since I've been a kid. Really, is you can't be perfect in an imperfect world type of thing. And I've learned over the years is trying to strive for excellence or be the best you can be to help people and help yourself along the way. So there was a lot of things I've learned there, and I've had to take real ownership in my reflection of those experiences to become, a better person, I think, and a better coach as I've gone along.
I think from an outsider's point of view, where I think underneath the national team, the regions have done really, really well considering, and this is just an outsider because back with us in Ireland, we have a split up, it's been that way for hundreds of years. It is a region for the sake of a region. And, we know as Connacht, we're the bridesmaids. We're never going to be the bride. We're always going to get the lower amount. We always know we're not going to achieve. And when we won the Pro 14, that was just, it was a great achievement, but more probably luck than anything else. But because you've created a region in Wales, which isn't a region, nobody is buying into it, never has. So for the coach or the management or whatever, you're always fighting against someone there. So I think it's almost a poisoned chalice job, each one of them. So for what all the management or coaches have done over the years, I think it's been a great achievement because it's difficult because it's not a specific regional area like we have. You are amalgamating teams together who historically didn't want to be amalgamated almost. So it's a difficult gig for most people.
Yeah, it's that's for sure. You can't dispute that. I think the hearts. I know people talk a lot about hearts and minds, don't they? And I think even there are some people I know. We used to go to Stradey Park religiously, but have arguably not been to Park of Scarlets, and it's an amazing facility. You know, if you look at what the Dragons are doing now is terrific. With David going in there and with Dean there, and what the Ospreys have done over the years with Lynn in particular at the beginning was just phenomenal. To win all those trophies, Di did at the Blues. And when you think of the trophies the regions have won, and then if you really drill down into the detail of the resources that were available over a consistent basis, maybe, I think they've done exceptionally well, Shane, as you say. But I always believe that, the hearts and minds part of it is something that could arguably have been, addressed in a different way, maybe, because of those points you were making at the beginning for people, who were, understanding that we can't have 12 professional teams in Wales. The economy just will not sustain that type of thing. And I just think maybe we could have told a story perhaps in a different way that would have made people realise that this is for the good of the game. To keep professional rugby in Wales, in order for people to see the best players in Wales rather than only on an international scene. They're seeing them on a week-to-week basis, which is gold dust, really. And then where all the clubs fit in together and how they all, draw strength from each other, because, the strength of the Welsh Rugby Union is the strength of all the clubs in Wales, there's been some amazing work done, but I don't think you can underestimate sometimes the hearts and minds piece of the tribalism, if you like, that have been in place for a long time, in this country, whereas in Ireland, the provinces were always part of the Irish rugby system, weren't they,
Yeah, hence you go back even to the international team. They, in a way, Wales seem to have overachieved. If you start breaking it down, that the regions don't kind of work in a way, but they have worked. They've overachieved. So what the regions and Wales as an international team have achieved over the last X amount of years is phenomenal. It's it's a sum of the parts, not the individual parts.
Yeah, well, if you think arguably three of the smallest rugby playing nations have been the most successful in the last 10 years, New Zealand, Ireland and Wales, arguably. I know New Zealand a World Cup time, but when you look at all the other, the Grand Slam or the Six Nations or whatever, the European Cup and that sort of thing, the leagues, the Pro 14 or it was the Magners League, I think it was then, or the Rabo Direct.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just interesting, isn't it? But I just think the one thing I've learned about, coaching, in Africa and in different countries, even coaching in France a couple of years ago with my old friend Richard Hill, who was captain in the 1987 battle, actually, is you just got to adapt to, and you've got to be respectful of how people think and what the history of sport is, what the history of the country is, and you've got to try and, work things around those traits, if you like, and get it and try to get it right and get people, bought into a vision or a cause. People don't buy into plans, do they? They buy into a vision or a cause, and that gives them a warm feeling. It gives them, it touches their heart, if you like, or it's in their bones, sort of thing. So I
think that's very much the way we talk in our day-to-day job and money. When you mentioned on plans and that, there nobody wants the plan. They want the goal or the objective. The plan is just the route to get there. And you can transfer that to finance, your life, education, whatever it may be. Yeah, as long as it's mapped out correctly, the plan, there's a way to achieve it. Then your goal will be hit.
Always. Yeah, absolutely.
Funny one, Phil. We still haven't got the funny story from you. Are you just waiting on a call from the legal team to say, can you say it or not?
No. There was we've had some amazing experiences, like crazy stuff. But this is for, just quickly, when I was coaching in Leeds, we used to go up to the Yorkshire Dales. We used to have an amazing guy called Steve Carter, Scrapper, we used to be calling him. He was a regimental sergeant major in the army. He passed away a few years ago. He got killed in a motorbike accident and broke a lot of people's hearts, my own included. And he was an amazing guy. And he'd come out of the army and qualified for masseur. But he came to work with me and we gave him a job as a masseur. But he ended up being my confidant, my right-hand man in many ways. And the conditioner for the club for 8 years. He used to take us up the Yorkshire Dales. And we used to go orienteering. Boys used to get lost. It was a shambles, really. So, some boys would end up in the pub at the correct time and other boys would end up in the pub 2 hours late. So the guys that got there in the beginning were 3 sheets to the wind. The boys who got there late were trying to catch up. It was carnage. It was amazing, great laugh, great fun, and we had a couple of boys who used to be able to play the guitar and we'd put song sheets up. We had just great crack, amazing, great fun. But the funny story was when I was playing, we were in California on tour with Llanelli, and myself, Anthony Buchanan, Lawrence Delaney, Gareth Jenkins, right, 4 pretty big blokes, took a speedboat out onto San Diego Harbour, it was at the time, for a spin, right, great in the afternoon there, 2 in the back, 2 in the front. Obviously, the one in the back was steering, whatever, the guy pasture next door, and then 2 in the front. So we're having a few cans of Budweiser, whatever. Big signs, no cans on the waterway, or no alcohol on the waterway. So anyway, we only had a couple. So we were having a bit of a debate then who was going to drive the boat, because he was going forward. It was great. So I was going at the front of the boat now and again, taking photos of Gareth, Anthony, and Lawrence, Lawrence there, whatever it was. Great, good fun. So then Buck and Delaney started arguing who was going to drive next. So it was only forward, neutral, reverse on this speedboat, right? So Gareth is driving like this. So I'm up the front now taking photos. I said, wait a minute, because obviously the point of the boat's out the water when it's going as quick as it is. So with my weight there, it didn't matter. But then all of a sudden now, Gareth decides to put her in neutral. I'm still at the front of the boat. So they swap over then. Lawrence decides to drive. They swap over. So I'm scrambling now to try and get from the front back to my seat so the boat will sort of level out type of thing. But anyway, in the end, as we were going down, my arse was in the water. Lawrence decides to put it in the fast forward. So we actually sunk it. It flipped. It started diving like a submarine and flipped. We were all over the shop. So it was crazy. So Gareth and I got up first because we were reasonably strong swimmers. We couldn't find Lawrence and Buck, so we dove back down to see where they were. As we got up, they were both clinging to each other on the boat because they didn't they weren't keen on the water type of thing, and there were all these cans bobbling up and down and around the boat. So we shouldn't have been, And then we turned it over, and then we got towed in. Oh my God! So it cost us a kitty money actually to repair the boat. So we had to tell the players after that. That was just like, it was funny. It was a funny story, very funny. You had to be there as well, I suppose. But how can you sink the speedboat, for God's sake?
Brilliant.
Amazing.
It's just bonkers, And so a bit of patience required sometimes when you're changing drivers.
Phil, lastly, because we're conscious we kept you for so long because it's been really, really, really interesting and enjoyable listening. You've got a website now. So what is that, and what do you do now at the moment?
Yeah, I'm still coaching, but I set up sort of Phil Davies Rugby and Associates about 6 years ago. And, it was all about leadership. There's a bit of media work in there, obviously coaching in there, but it was all about leadership, really, and trying to create, frameworks of leading, different topics of leadership, whether it's operating under pressure, building high-performing teams. So that was it. That's what it was all about. So it became Phil Davies Online, which was my website, which is under reconstruction now because it's a bit dated. Because after having my time in Africa, I never got around to updating the thing. So we're trying to update it now to Phil Davies online, global leadership. And within that, we've created a briefcase called the Leaders Locker. And there are sort of 5 topics of leadership within that, where I'm just trying to, I've created frameworks throughout all my experiences in order to give back to, to give back to companies, to give back to teams, to give back to individuals. So that's, what we're on with at the moment. Is trying to reshape the website and get the Leaders Locker briefcase out there to try and help the leaders of the future, really, and help, people who are currently leading through the frameworks and all the experiences that I've had through sport. And there's huge links for business, as we all know.
Yeah. So I was going to say that's going to allow people that are working in business to basically get hold of you and almost help them through adapting or going through something that's you've almost seen in a sporting context and bringing that in from the sporting context into the business world to help them going forward.
Yeah, it's basically, there's a bit of leading self in there. There's a bit of leading others, and ultimately, highlighting the links. There are some obvious links, but they need to be teased out, obviously. But further links will get teased out. But it's all about showing the links between business and sport, and how similar it is in many, many ways. And what I do find is the management in business, the management of the process is amazing. Is incredible in many ways, but the leadership of the people is something that's important. Again, you come back to the hearts and minds of making people feel valued, giving them a sense of belonging, making them feel safe, and there's elements of control in their daily environments. And they'll give you everything and anything. They'll give you your best if you create those sorts of environments for people.
Amazing. We'll stick that at the end of the podcast as well for people to have a look at and get in contact if they need to have a chat to you and stuff like that.
Well, I appreciate it. I better get it updated then.
Superb, fella. It's been really enjoyable the last, probably chatting for over an hour now, but we could probably do another 2 hours if we had time. It's been really useful, thoroughly enjoyable.
Brilliant. Thanks, Phil.
Amazing. Thanks. That was a great chat with Phil. We could have gone for hours and hours, and it was a joy speaking to somebody with so much passion. As usual, there's a lot of takeaways from this episode. Again, head over to the website, www.sanfp.co.uk, to learn more about us and our journey. That's it for this episode. Next, we're talking all things human performance and mindset with Fergus Connolly. You can hear that wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, don't forget to click subscribe to get all the latest episodes as soon as they arrive. Also, if you're enjoying the series, please do leave us some feedback with a quick review, as that helps us grow and ensure that we are giving the audience the best experience. Until next time, thanks for listening.